Thank you so much for staying with us right here on Sunrise at Sea on CTV. Welcome to the Twitter Jabs too. My name is Agi Owase, and just like we discussed earlier with Shivan Auma, we're talking about the directive by the Ministry of Health for vaccination of children between 12 years and 17 years of age. Now, definitely, like we're reading out the tweets, this met mixed reactions, some positive, some negative, and some parents saying we don't want our children to be vaccinated against our consent. And yes, the Ministry of Health came out to assure every parent that no child will be vaccinated against their consent. And joining me today is Dr. Sabrina Chitaka, who is a specialist pediatrician, senior lecturer and adolescent medicine consultant at Makerere University College of Health Science. Good morning, Dr. Sabrina.
Good morning, Agi. Very nice to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
So to start with, what are your thoughts on the vaccination of children against COVID-19?
As you know, I'm a pediatrician.
Yes.
And when they announced that children were going to be vaccinated, I was so excited. And all over the world, pediatricians were super excited. Because if you have a disease that is ravaging the world and killing many people, and children don't have the opportunity to get vaccinated, when they have an opportunity to get the intervention, then you get excited about the possibility. You know, Agi, there's been a lot of, I'd say, COVID hysteria with a lot of infodemics in the last 2 years. People coming up with conspiracy theories and people getting agitated about science. For us, the scientists, we are calm and composed. But sadly, people who are not scientists, they are the ones that are developing all these infodemics and misinformation, really, that is scaring the population. And that is not right.
Well, these are some reservations that that parents have and other people against, children being vaccinated against COVID-19. So why is it that, scientists are very sure of this, and then parents, on the other hand, are, still skeptical about the vaccination of their children?
I guess there's a lot of misinformation. And for me, that's the gist of all the confusion. I am a mother. I'm not just a scientist. I've got all my children vaccinated. And I know that in Uganda, over 400,000 children have been vaccinated. So this is not a myth. It's not an experiment. It's protection. And for me, that's where we should all understand and be on the same page. COVID-19 disease is a serious disease. And the thing is, in the last 2 years, so many different variants have come up. The most scary one was the Delta variant. The virus has mutated over a period of 2 years. Today we are worried about the Omicron variant, but we know that it is less harmful than all the others. However, we don't know what people will react to when they get COVID-19. The most feared complication is myocarditis. And myocarditis means you have a swelling in your heart. The heart becomes inflamed and it can easily stop. So, if you get COVID-19 and get severe disease, the COVID-19 disease develops what we call cytokine storm. It affects many organs, and some people end up dying. Of course, the number of people who die are not like those who die from, let's say, border accidents, which is sad to compare border accidents with a disease. But many people die, and we saw children dying even.
Yes.
We also know that some children are quite sick and continuing to be followed up because they have long COVID. And long COVID is a disease that presents when somebody gets COVID-19 disease and then they get complications and they don't recover. So giving people a vaccine is actually helping them to have a milder disease, to have less severe complications of COVID-19. So when this vaccine is availed to children, then we feel that they are on the same page and have equal opportunities for good health, same as adults. The CDC in the US has recently given the vaccine to children as young as 6 months. And Ugandans are here jumping up and down because the Ministry of Health, which, by the way, is mandated to take care of all our health, has recommended the vaccination of children 12 years and above. And I find it quite discerning and unfortunate for people to shed, wrong light on something that is meant to be of benefit to everyone in this country.
Okay, as a pediatrician, I would like you to tell the people out there, have these vaccines been tested, and are they safe enough for children?
Of course. There's no single vaccine that does not go out into the public without going through various tests and recommendations. The WHO, which has the mandate to offer healthcare to the whole world, authorized this vaccine. The CDC authorized these vaccines. The European Medical Authority authorized these vaccines. So why on earth would people think that these vaccines are not safe? In Uganda, the National Drug Authority is responsible for checking each and every medication that comes to our country. And all these vaccines are tested before they are given to Ugandans. So the vaccines are safe and they are safe for children.
So what ages, when it comes to children, what ages are eligible for these vaccines?
Well, we know that Pfizer-BioNTech is eligible to be given to children between 6 months and above. In the United States, in Canada, in the Nordic countries, this vaccine is being given to children as young as 6 months. So it is a safe vaccine.
And the rest of the vaccines, because I remember during the time when they were vaccinating us, the adults, sometimes you'd find Pfizer is not there and there's AstraZeneca. So how about that? Because we are not sure that Pfizer will be enough for the children. So in the event that it's not enough and they have to resort to AstraZeneca, is AstraZeneca, maybe even Johnson & Johnson, which is rather scarce, are they all safe, or it's just Pfizer?
It's only Pfizer-BioNTech at the moment, which is safe for children. And there was a possibility of the Moderna vaccine being given to children as well. But as you know, countries like Sweden and Denmark have restricted the vaccination of children with Moderna, but they are continuing to give children the Pfizer-BioNTech. When vaccine development is happening, it usually happens among adults. And AstraZeneca, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson were not tried in children, but Pfizer was, and it's actually a safe vaccine.
So what do studies say about vaccination of children, and what should be considered?
Well, the thing is, when children are vaccinated, and you know that children have been vaccinated from time immemorial with other vaccines, we know that vaccines are one of the biggest interventions that provide quality health for individuals and generally the population. We know that diseases like measles and polio and tuberculosis would still be rife and killing many children, but because children are vaccinated, they are then safe. I'll tell you that on the ward I work at, it's the infectious diseases ward. We used to have so many children coming in with meningitis, with pneumonia, with all these things, but because the country has continued to offer children vaccinations and we are up to date with many vaccinations, the infection control is obvious. And so we would like the same for even COVID-19, that when a child gets even a slight cough and flu and they confirm that they have COVID-19, it doesn't stop there. For me, it goes beyond having even that mild, so-called mild infection. Because indeed, some children get complications. Some children have come with post-COVID myocarditis. Some have developed other syndromes. So we don't want children to go in that direction. Plus, children tend to be in big, large masses. If you have a class of 100 kids and one of them gets COVID-19, the likelihood of the entire class getting COVID-19 is really big. And so you don't know who is going to get severe disease. You don't know who's going to get Kawasaki syndrome. You don't know who's going to get myocarditis and other complications. Yeah.
So the vaccination of children, because right now it's upon a parent to want to vaccinate their child. The Ministry of Health has given parents liberty to be at liberty, to consent to the vaccination of their children. So in the event that one child is vaccinated and then some other parents are reluctant and they do not vaccinate their children. Eventually, when they get to school, they're going to mix up with others. How do they affect other children, the ones that are not vaccinated? How do they affect the ones that are vaccinated? How does it all play out?
So I'll tell you that when I learned that Pfizer BioNTech was available for children, my children were one of the first ones on the line, the first 300 kids who got their Pfizer BioNTech. And I was comfortable as a parent because I knew that if my children were in class, they were safe. If they went for a movie or they went for swimming or they were in a sports field, they were safe. It is safety for you first and then others. And I think that parents who are doubting and not being smart enough to take their children for vaccination, you're putting your children at risk. If you have a child who has been vaccinated, and I believe you're vaccinated, Aggie.
Yes, I am.
I am vaccinated, and so I can speak comfortably to you, knowing that you may have COVID, I could have COVID, but if by bad chance I spread you COVID, you'll get a mild disease. Similarly, when children are in class, those who are vaccinated, if they get COVID, they'll get a milder infection. Those who do not get vaccinated, we don't know what will happen to them. And for me, that's the key point.
Now, looking at the fact that the Ministry of Health has only, has authorized these to children between 12 and 17 years of age. So how about the children who are below 12 years of age? Because at the end of the day, you find children are in a classroom, some are below, 12 years of age, some are above 12 years of age. So how about them?
I want to think that it's a cost issue. The Ministry of Health has been able to buy 11 million doses. And we know that children are approximately 20 million or so. Uganda has a young population. But those who are 12 to 17 are approximately 11 or 12 million. And so the ministry has had to buy vaccines for that age group. If we were a rich country like America or Canada, I believe we would have bought enough vaccines for even those who are 6 months of age. So I think it's a financial issue.
Now if it's a financial issue, don't you think then it won't be effective? Because it means that some children will be vaccinated, some will not be vaccinated, and they're all going to be in the same school, the same environment.
No. For now, those who are 12 to 17 have a dose. They have 2 doses for them. And so if parents take those children for vaccination, they will get the vaccine. The thing is, the younger you are, the less likely you are to get severe disease. But again, we have seen children, even as young as 9 days old, getting COVID-19. But the Ministry of Health, which has the mandate to make policies and guidelines and purchase interventions for health for Ugandans, has given us the guidance to vaccinate that age group. If money becomes available and more information is available, then the age group will become lower. Okay, now let's look at why is the consent from parents very important? Does this, release the Ministry of Health from some unprecedented consequences? Well, you know that COVID-19 is a new disease. Even the vaccines are new. And so they are provided under the emergency use listing in the WHO. So consenting, again, provides the ministry with protection, but also informs the parents that this is under emergency use listing. It does not negate the Ministry of Health from being asked more questions. It doesn't. But for any new vaccine, there'll be a consenting process. I remember when we lined up for our AstraZeneca in March of 2021, we did sign a consent form. And all countries that are giving this vaccine are asking people to sign consent forms. So this is not a new thing. There are reports that there are some children who are vaccinated against, their parents' consent, those who are headed to school on bus, stopped at roadblocks and vaccinated, without their parents' consent, even without their own consent. What does this say about the Ministry of Health? I have no comment to that because for me that is hearsay. Those are infodemics. So I cannot make a comment. I'd like to have evidence-based discussion.
Okay. Now, do you think there's a sensitization gap regarding the misconceptions about COVID-19 vaccination?
Incidentally, the ministry has done a lot. And I want to thank the media because they are supporting this discussion. Prior to this, some of the media houses were really against. And you know that today everybody is a media house. People who have access to Twitter, to TikTok, to Snapchat, to WhatsApp, they can wake up in the morning and say, oh my gosh, the one which was so funny, I remember, was, you know, a coin can stick on your arm.
Oh, yes.
That was hilarious, to tell you the truth. But some people got swept away by this funny challenge. And similarly, people will wake up in the morning, maybe they had a bad dream, maybe they woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and they'll start a pure misinformative conversation, which they will spread like wildfire. I keep saying that when you start news and say that a man beat a dog, that people will listen to. But if you say a dog beat a man on his way to work, that's not news. So vaccination is something the Ministry of Health has been singing since it was incepted. Vaccination for everything. And now vaccination for COVID is what the Ministry of Health is saying and is expecting people to do. But if you go against it, wow, you're making good news. And so people are more likely to listen to you for some reason.
We'd understand, because I mean there are so many conspiracy theories on the internet, not even just from Uganda, from abroad, and also Denmark has halted, you know, vaccination of children. So that is why some parents have their reservations. However, let's get back to the issue of the Ministry of. I think they have done enough, you know, sensitization since December 2019 all the way until this day. But do you think at the moment enough sensitization has been done in regard to children being vaccinated against COVID-19? Because if it's going to happen in this period, it's a very short period.
True.
Do you think enough sensitization has been done? Some parents may not really, you know, understand this.
I think maybe we need to do more. But as far as I'm concerned, the ministry has a good strategy. They are using the media and they are using radio, they are using flyers, they are using every opportunity. Maybe we need to consult other, you know, cultural leaders, religious leaders in churches. People should be aware that this is for the benefit of the children and not against the children.
Yes.
And because it's a short time, I believe the ministry is also prepared for that. Because if you have to vaccinate 6 million children in a very short time, it means you have to be prepared.
Yes.
So the parents also have to be cooperative and take the children because it's for their benefit.
Then I also do think that the Ministry of Health should be in position, you know, to avail all the necessary equipment at the right time. This is a very short period of time. I remember the times we're getting vaccinated, sometimes would sit for about 2 hours, you know, waiting. So it's upon them to ensure that that is done. But however, do you think, are there any mitigation measures put in place or that need to be put in place as the Ministry of Health rolls out COVID-19 vaccination for children?
Yes, indeed. And one of the things is if your child is vaccinated and they get any complication, high fever, headache, whatever, they should be able to report to the nearest health center, including any side effect, chest pain, they should report immediately because hiding at home and talking about it is not going to treat the child. Going to a health center is what is going to support the child to get any care and treatment.
As a pediatrician, what are some of you know, the after effects of the vaccine on children, so that at least parents can be in the know, and how can they mitigate them, or how can they go about them in case their children get some of these side effects?
So the side effects are quite similar to those that the adults got. Pain at the injection site, some dizziness because of fear, but also some chest pain. And there's a very rare condition called myocarditis, where you have a slight swelling in the heart. But that is extremely rare. 1 out of 100,000 people are the ones who get it. But should anyone get it, they can get treated in a health center. I want to caution and say that the myocarditis caused by the COVID-19 disease is much more common. It's 20 per 100,000. So you can do the maths. If a person gets COVID, they are more likely to get cytokine storm, myocarditis, kidney disease, and get complications. As opposed to if they are vaccinated, they get a milder disease, and that's it.
Yes. Now the big question today, or here, during this whole vaccination drive, is why now? COVID-19 has been here since 2019, and right now it's less severe, as compared, as opposed to 2019, 2020, the first half of 2021. The question is why now? Why the vaccination of children? Why is it taking place now? Why is the drive much more, emphasized right now?
People think that when the lockdowns ended, COVID-19 disease vaporized. The truth is we still have COVID-19 disease. And even as we speak, yesterday there were 36 new cases of COVID-19. So we don't know where this is taking us. Like I said, this is a new infection. It's a new disease, and it keeps mutating. We started with Alpha, then Delta, then Delta Plus, then we got Omicron, and Omicron is varied. It started with B1 1.1, then B1 1.2, now it's B1 1.5, which is circulating throughout the whole world and has overtaken the other variants of concern. We don't know where it's going. It could mutate again, and for me, it is better to prevent than to cure, because the cure of COVID actually is not yet in this country. And we maybe don't want to go into that conversation, because we know that there are antiretrovirals that treat COVID-19, but they are not yet here, and they cost an arm and a leg. So you don't want to be trying to get COVID-19 and then importing the medication from wherever.
So why now and not back in 2019 and 2020?
There was very little vaccine. As you know, in 2019 December, when the COVID-19 outbreak started, people went out of their way, scientists developing vaccines, and there were over 100 vaccines in the pipeline. The ones that scored through the pipeline were 6: Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, BioNTech, AstraZeneca, Sinovac, others, which were the ones that were authorized to be given to the population.
Yes.
To make a vaccine is quite costly, and it takes a lot of experiments and confirmation and using different platforms to develop a vaccine. The COVID-19 vaccine was developed extremely fast because of the urgency of the situation. People were dying, and let us not forget those television images of people dying in the US, in Italy, in China. And then in the whole world, there's no single country that hasn't suffered from COVID-19. So why now? Because the vaccine is more available, because we have planned better, because we have the opportunity to get the vaccine. If you remember, when the vaccine was rolled out in 2021 October, the African countries were up in arms saying there's no equality. The G7 countries are hoarding the vaccines, but now there's more availability. And the truth is, we are not safe until we are all safe. You never know. My child could fly out next month for school, and if they are not vaccinated, then they are at risk of getting a disease elsewhere. The world is now a global village, and our borders are porous. We keep getting an influx of refugees. So if we don't vaccinate the people here, then we are at risk of putting our children at risk.
So what message would you give to a parent out there who was reluctant, to take their children for vaccination of COVID-19, but, right now are ready to take their child?
I'd say, well done. I'm glad you've understood. And I'd say, take your child to the nearest health facility to get your child vaccinated. Vaccinations are safe, and they are safe for our children. Vaccinations are intended to provide the child an opportunity to be protected from severe disease of COVID-19 or dying from the disease.
And at the moment as we speak, there are some adults who are actually not yet vaccinated against COVID-19.
That's sad.
Yes, it is very disturbing. So you'd understand, you know, a parent who hasn't been vaccinated, then they would be reluctant to also vaccinate their child. So overall, final, you know, message to the people out there, to the viewer out there about the vaccination of COVID-19 and maybe, you know, particularly children.
I'd say Ugandans, let's be smart. Let us be protective of each other. And Ugandans, let us stay safe. Of course, vaccines are just one of the interventions. The other one is following the SOPs, ensuring that if you are ill, go get yourself tested, get treated, isolate yourself. If you're coughing and sneezing, please isolate yourself. And also, if you're in a crowd in a room, you should be wearing masks, which is ironical. We are not wearing masks. Yes. But we are vaccinated. And the other one, of course, is children are now on holiday. Let the children play, but feed them well. Let them be out in the sunshine. Having enough vitamin D will support these children from many things. And also the other thing is giving them a balanced diet and allowing them to sleep. When you rest and sleep enough, your immunity is actually improved. And parents, love your children. Loving your children includes making sure they get the necessary interventions in health, but also you're supporting them to grow up into adults so that they make decisions for themselves when they grow up.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sabrina, for joining us this morning. That was a very insightful, you know, submission, discussion.
Thank you so much.
Well, that has been Dr. Sabrina Chitaka, a specialist pediatrician, senior lecturer and adolescent medicine consultant at Makerere University College of Health Sciences. And she has been weighing in and, you know, giving us a lot of insight in regard to the vaccination of children ages 12 and above, according to the Ministry of Health. That is all we had for you in this segment of the Twitter Jabs. Coming up is our views, and we have a very interesting conversation coming up. So do stay with us. This is Sunrise at Sea. Don't blink.